His hand flew against her face in front of everyone. She fell between the shelves, handcuffed and silent. But seconds later, a phone call and the camera footage changed everything. The dull sound of corn cans hitting the marble floor, 1, 2, 3, rolling through the aisles of the Leblon Premium Market. Dandara bends down to pick them up, the thin fabric of her navy blue blazer stretching her back. Her fingers tremble slightly, not from fear, but from suppressed irritation. Security guard Jorge emerges from the central aisle, walkie-talkie crackling in his right hand. His footsteps are heavy, his boots thudding against the floor. His eyes don't rest on Dandara's face. They simply scan the open bag, the scattered groceries, the dark skin that, to him, already tells a story. "Hey, you there. Where do you think you're going?" His voice cuts through the freezing air conditioning. Dandara looks up. 42 years old, a lawyer for 15 years, a public defender for 8. She knows that tone. She knows that look. She knows the script that's about to unfold. "I'm just organizing my shopping," she replies, her voice firm but controlled, picking up the last item. But Jorge has already turned on the radio. 2 police cars park outside. The blare of sirens cuts through the market's ambient music. Customers pause between the shelves, necks crane, cell phones raise. The stage is set. Officer Rocha enters first, broad shoulders, impeccable uniform, hand already resting on his baton. Behind him, Officer Silva, younger, eyes nervous, as if he were going to war. "Where's the suspect?" Rocha asks, completely ignoring Dandara and addressing the security guard. Dandara stands slowly. Her blazer still has the perfect crease of someone who went straight from the office to the shops. Her brown leather bag, a gift she gave herself for her first promotion, hangs on her right shoulder. She carries more than just products in those bags. She carries 15 years of struggle, 8 years of public service, 42 years of silent resistance. The market becomes a circus, and she, once again, becomes the spectacle. How many times does a black person have to prove that they are not guilty of existing? The crack echoed between the shelves like a gunshot. Dandara's cheek burned, not just from the force of the slap, but from the humiliation that spread across her face like spilled paint. The taste of iron flooded her mouth. Blood. But she didn't touch her face. Didn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. The icy market floor pressed into his knees through his dress pants. The handcuffs bit into his wrists like metal snakes. Around him, the hubbub of voices multiplied. Customers whispering, employees commenting, cell phones capturing every second of his fall. Dandara closed her eyes. For 3 seconds as long as centuries. In the darkness, Grandma Conceição's voice echoed. "My granddaughter, when they knock you down, you count to 3. 1, to remember where you came from. 2, to remember where you're going. 3, so they remember who they're messing with. 1. She came from the suburbs of Caxias, where her mother, Nusa, washed clothes in the wee hours of the morning to pay for her prep course books. He came from studying by candlelight at night when the power went out. He came from his first day of law school, when he was the only black person in a class of 50 students. 2. She was going home, to the apartment she'd bought with her first paycheck, to the office where she defended people like her, black, poor, forgotten, to the future she'd built brick by brick, lawsuit by lawsuit, humiliation by humiliation. 3. Dandara opened her eyes. The blood at the corner of her mouth became war-painted on her face. She didn't wipe it away. She let everyone see it. Let the cameras record it. Let history record it. "Do you know who I am?" His voice was low, but sharp as glass. Officer Rocha laughed, adjusting his belt. "I know. Another one who thinks she's special." But there was something in Dandara's tone that made Silva, the youngest, frown. A certainty that didn't suit a woman handcuffed to the ground. A calm that didn't make sense in someone who had just been beaten. A teenage employee, Marcos, stopped arranging the products. For the first time, he really looked at her. Not at her skin, not at her handcuffs, at her eyes. And he saw something that made him swallow hard. Dandara took a deep breath, feeling the market's air conditioning chill the blood in her lip. Her silence was more frightening than any scream. The market became a courtroom. There was no official judge, no official jury, just eyes. Dozens of them, focused on Dandara like spotlights on a stage she didn't choose to step onto. In the fruit aisle, Donna Helena pretended to examine the apples. 70 years old, dyed blonde hair, Chanel bag slung over her arm. Her lips moved in venomous whispers to her friend next to her. "These people always get into trouble. They must have tried to leave without paying." 2 meters away, Carla held her 6-year-old son's hand, pulling him away from the scene. A black woman, a nurse. She knew the script by heart. She wanted to help, but fear got the better of her. Her steps quickened toward the cashier, carrying with them the sympathy that had died in her throat. In the bakery section, young Bruno recorded everything with his cell phone, but not to denounce the injustice, to post on his stories with the caption, "Woman caught stealing from the supermarket." Each click was a digital stone. Only Marcos, a 19-year-old employee, stopped organizing the shelves. His fingers trembled as he held a can of sardines. He was also black. He also knew the weight of those stares. He also knew the bitter taste of being blamed before being heard. But wearing the supermarket uniform didn't protect him. It only made him a temporary, good black person. Manager Otavio watched from the safe distance of his bulletproof glass office. 52 years old, with an impeccable gray suit and a Swiss watch on his wrist. To him, Dandara was nothing more than an image problem. A stain on the establishment's reputation that needed to be removed quickly, like a spill in the hallway. The market's ambient music continued to play, a romantic ballad disconnected from the brutality unfolding. The white fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows on Dandara's face, transforming every contour into a drawing of resistance. A 5-year-old hid behind her mother's skirt, eyes wide. She didn't understand the words, but she felt the violence in the air. Her childish silence was the most honest of all, pure astonishment at human cruelty. Dandara felt the weight of every gaze like a blade, some curious, some judgmental, few sympathetic. The entire market became an aquarium where she was the exotic fish, interesting to observe but kept at a safe distance. In the audience of hate, there are always seats left for those who prefer to watch in silence. The smell of laundry detergent mixed with the steam from the iron. The small living room of the house in Caxias, where Nusa folded other people's school uniforms under the yellowish light of the 40-watt bulb. It was 3 in the morning. Dandara, then 16, was studying constitutional law from photocopied notebooks, her pink highlighter already drained of ink. "Mom, you don't need to work at dawn," Dandara murmured, rubbing her tired eyes. Nusa didn't even look up from her ironing. "I iron rich people's clothes so you can wear a doctor's gown. It's different." Her calloused hands glided over the other's fabric with surgical precision. Every crease was a promise, every drop of sweat, an investment. She knew her daughter carried more than books in that battered bag. She carried the dreams of 3 generations of black women who washed, ironed, and cooked, so that one of them would one day speak as an equal to those who had always treated them as invisible. Cut to 10 years later. Dandara, graduating on her first day as a public defender. The black suit, purchased in 12 installments, was her war uniform. In the courthouse bathroom mirror, she adjusted her pearl necklace, an inheritance from her grandmother, Conceição, the only valuable thing the family owned. "Today I defend those who never had a defense," he said to his own reflection, but even dressed as justice, eyes still stripped her naked. White colleagues doubted her ability. Judges questioned her authority. Clients were surprised to see her. Being a black person with such a law degree carried an invisible weight, the burden of proving, every day, that she deserved to be there. Now, handcuffed to the cold market floor, Dandara felt her grandmother's pearl necklace pressing against her throat. Each pearl was a swallowed tear, a humiliation transformed into fuel, a closed door that became the impetus to break down the next. He remembered the first case he'd won, defending Dona Creusa, a cleaning lady wrongly accused of theft at the condominium where she worked. The same scenario, the same automatic suspicion. the same presumption of guilt painted on his dark skin. But she had won, and she would win again. The handcuffs didn't just bind her wrists, they bound 4 centuries of attempts to silence her. But Dandara wasn't just her. She was Nusa ironing clothes in the wee hours of the morning. She was Conceição fighting for her dignity. She was Dona Creusa proving her innocence. She was every black woman who dared to dream beyond what the world expected of her. They handcuffed their hands, but they forgot that strength comes from blood, not from wrists. Officer Rocha spat on the ground. The acidic phlegm landed inches from Dandara's face, a baptism of contempt he had learned to dispense with surgical precision. 23 years on the force, 48 years of life, and he knew exactly how to break any element without soiling his uniform. "Get that bitch up and put her in the police car," he ordered, adjusting the belt that held his gun, his baton, and his handcuffs. Each object was an extension of his unquestionable authority. Silva, the younger partner, hesitated for a split second. Something about Dandara's silence bothered him, but hierarchy prevailed. His hands tugged at her arms with unnecessary force, lifting her off the ground like a garbage bag. "Be careful with the products, Silva," Rocha scoffed, drawing laughter from some customers. "We don't want to damage the doctor's purchases." The word doctor came out of his mouth like venom. To him, every black person who didn't lower their head considered themselves doctors. A graduate of the University of WhatsApp, as he used to say at the police station, a doctorate in scandal-mongering, a master's degree in victimhood. Dandara felt Silva's hands tremble slightly as they dragged her down the hallway. The young officer was no older than 25, black like her. But wearing the uniform made him forget that, outside of there, he, too, would be an automatic suspect. "What's all this violence for?" asked Dona Alba, a regular customer at the market, finally moved by conscience. Rocha turned to her, a cynical smile on his face. "Do you want to teach me my work, or would you rather I check to see if you also have something hidden in your bag?" Silence returned like a blade. Dona Alba backed away, pretending to check her cell phone. The threat wasn't subtle. It was calculated. Rocha knew his badge was a license to humiliate without consequences. On the way to the patrol car, he deliberately stopped in front of the electronics section. The security cameras blinked like dead eyes, recording everything. But Rocha knew the script. The images always disappeared. The reports always got lost. The witnesses always forgot. "Do you know what your problem is?" he whispered in Dandara's ear, his hot breath carrying decades of institutionalized hatred. "You think a diploma changes skin color?" Dandara didn't answer, not because she didn't have an answer, but because she recognized the type. Men like Rocha didn't listen to women like her. They only understood the language that was coming. Armed ignorance has always been the country's most dangerous terror. Dandara's cell phone vibrated against her thigh, even while handcuffed. A technological miracle, or perhaps fate finally deciding to exact its toll on those who thought they could humiliate without consequences. Silva didn't notice when she managed to swipe her finger across the screen, activating the quick call. The back seat of the police car smelled of disinfectant mixed with fear. How many innocent people had sat there, bearing the weight of unfounded accusations? Dandara took a deep breath, feeling the faux leather stick to the sweaty back of her blazer. "Dr. Saulo?" His voice was low but firm. On the other end of the line, his colleague from the public defender's office answered on the second ring. Rocha, who was adjusting his seatbelt in the front seat, turned his neck sharply. "Who is she talking to?" "I'm at the Leblon Premium Market. I need the security camera footage." "Now," Dandara continued, completely ignoring the police presence. Silva felt something cold run down his spine. Dandara's tone had changed. It was no longer the voice of someone begging or submitting. It was the voice of someone giving orders, of someone who knows exactly what they're doing. "Listen here, you—" Rocha tried to snatch the cell phone from Dandara's handcuffed hands, but she managed to lean her body, protecting the device. "Krieg, and immediately report this to the Civil Police Internal Affairs Unit. Physical assault, unlawful arrest, and abuse of authority against a federal public defender," she continued, each word falling like a stone in the silence of the patrol car. The world stopped. Rocha paled. Silva swallowed hard. Outside, onlookers were still filming, but now they were capturing something different. No longer a woman being humiliated, but a legal professional documenting crimes against herself. Saulo, on the other end of the line, already knew this script. 20 years of defending societies forgotten had taught him that justice sometimes needs to be demanded at the speed of a phone call. "I'm activating the system now. The images will be requested in 5 minutes, he replied, and Dandara smiled for the first time since entering the market. It wasn't a smile of victory. It was the smile of someone who always knew this moment would come, someone who carried on their shoulders not only their own dignity, but that of all those who came before and had no voice to defend themselves. Silva looked at his own reflection in the rearview mirror and saw something he didn't like, himself on the wrong side of history. Their silence now weighed more than any handcuffs. The police station phone cut through the silence like a siren. Chief Mendonça was finishing his reheated coffee when the phone rang. 57 years old, with a beer belly barely concealed by his uniform, he answered while chewing on the last piece of sugar bread. Barra da Tijuca Police Station, Mendonça speaking. The voice on the other end was dry and formal. Civil Police Internal Affairs. We have a report involving an assault on a federal public defender. Your men, Rocha and Silva, are escorting the victim. Release her immediately. The coffee turned to ice in the delegate's throat. His fingers trembled as he wrote down the name. Dandara Santos, Federal Public Defender's Office. The weight of each letter was a sentence against his own career. Mendonça raced through the police station, dropping papers, stumbling in his own anxiety. In the courtyard, Rocha's patrol car had just pulled up. Dandara stepped out of the car with the dignity of someone who knows her rights, even while handcuffed. "Let her go! Now!" Mendonça shouted, running as if his retirement depended on those seconds. Rocha froze, the handcuff key in his hand. "Officer, this woman is a federal public defender." Mendonça ripped the handcuffs from Dandara's wrists as if they were hot coals. "You just committed a federal crime recorded by 20 security cameras." The silence that followed was the sound of the end of 2 police careers. Silva looked at his own hands as if they belonged to someone else. Rocha tried to invent an excuse that didn't exist. Dandara massaged her wrists, feeling her circulation return. She showed no sign of relief or victory, just the serenity of someone who always knew how this story would end. "Deputy Mendonça," she said, pulling her official ID card from her purse. "I hope you understand the gravity of what happened here." The police chief's eyes scanned the official document as if reading his own sentence. Federal Public Defender, 15 years of experience, impeccable resume. And they had treated her like a common criminal. Outside the police station, Marcos, the grocery store employee, filmed everything on his cell phone. His hand was shaking, but he didn't stop recording. For the first time in his life, he was witnessing justice in action in real time. "You will be criminally charged with assault, false imprisonment, and abuse of authority." Dandara continued, each word falling like a judge's gavel. "And I will personally ensure you pay for every second of humiliation." Rocha lowered his head. 23 years of service evaporated in a single phone call. If you believe that knowledge is the most powerful weapon against injustice, leave a like to strengthen every person who still fights. The premium market monitoring room was a concrete bunker, its walls lined with dozens of monitors flashing black and white images. Dr. Saulo arrived accompanied by a forensic technician and 2 witnesses. Manager Otavio was sweating, knowing that every recorded pixel could cost him his job. Camera 7, cleaning department, 2:30 in the afternoon, ordered the technician, typing the commands into the system. The main screen showed Dandara bending down to pick up the fallen cans. A natural movement, no attempt at theft. Security guard Jorge approached for no apparent reason. "Advance the time further," Saulo continued, making quick notes on his pad. The slap appeared on the screen in cruel detail. The impact of Rocha's hand against Dandara's face echoed through the speakers like a gunshot. Manager Otavio looked away, finally understanding the gravity of what he had silently witnessed. My God, murmured one of the witnesses, covering his mouth with his hands. In the market, the news spread like wildfire. Donna Helena, who minutes before had judged Dandara a criminal, now walked with her head bowed through the aisles, carrying the weight of shame. Her cruel words echoed in her own conscience like accusations. Marcos, the young employee who had secretly filmed, decided to post the video on social media. Within 15 minutes, the footage went viral. Justiça para Dandara began trending. The digital truth spread faster than whispered lies. Carla, the nurse who had fled the scene in fear, returned to the market. She looked for Dandara, needing to apologize for her complicit silence. He found her at the exit, straightening her blazer, which now bore marks from the fight. I should have defended you, Carla said, her eyes welling up. Forgive me for being a coward. Dandara hugged her. Courage comes when we're ready. You're here now. That's what matters. At the police station, Chief Mendonça watched the footage with growing despair. Each frame was irrefutable proof of his subordinates' brutality. Rocha and Silva waited in silence, their uniforms that once symbolized authority now resembling out-of-season carnival costumes. Social media exploded. People shared their own stories of racism. Lawyers offered free legal aid. Activists organized protests. Dandara's case became a symbol of collective resistance. Saulo called her, Dandara, we have everything. The images are clear, the witnesses are corroborating, and the criminal case is already being prepared. She took a deep breath, feeling Grandma Conceição's pearl necklace against her chest. Each pearl now held not just memories, but victories. Share this story. Show that when truth meets courage, justice is no longer a distant dream. 3 months later, the auditorium at Zumbi dos Palmares Municipal School buzzed with anticipation. Black teenagers filled every seat, boys with holes in their sneakers and giant dreams, girls with frizzy hair and bright eyes. Dandara took the makeshift stage, carrying not only her brown leather briefcase but also the symbolic weight of a collective victory. The microphone caught her breath before she spoke. She looked out at the audience and saw faces she knew, not personally, but ancestrally. They were the same defiant eyes that shone in the quilombos, that resisted in the holds of ships, that dreamed of freedom in the slave quarters. They wanted me to be afraid, he began, his firm voice echoing off the peeling walls of the school. I came to remind you that we are the law, too. In the front row, 15-year-old Kawo jotted down every word in a battered notebook. The son of a maid, he dreamed of studying law. The scars on Dandara's face, which she never hid, were like war medals to him, proof that it was possible to survive and triumph. It doesn't matter how many times they try to bring us down, Dandara continued, unconsciously touching her grandmother Conceição's pearl necklace. Every slap we take becomes strength for the next one to come. Every humiliation we swallow becomes fuel for the one coming. At the back of the room, Dona Nusa wept quietly. Her daughter was no longer just the girl studying under the dim light while she ironed. She was a symbol. She was hope embodied in flesh and blood. Yasmin, 17, raised her hand shyly. Doctor, what about when we don't have a diploma? When we're just black and poor? Dandara stepped down from the stage and walked over to her. Do you think my great-grandmother had a diploma when she faced the overseers? Do you think my grandmother had a college degree when she raised 5 children alone? A diploma helps, but strength comes from within. It comes from the blood that runs through our veins. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was pregnant with understanding. Each young person there carried similar stories. Mothers who cleaned other people's houses to pay for school. Fathers who carried the burden of supporting dreams. Grandparents who maintained their dignity even when the world insisted on treating them as invisible. Racism relies on our disunity, Dandara concluded, returning to the microphone. It relies on our silence. It relies on our submission. But when we see ourselves as a family, when we understand that the struggle of one is the struggle of all, it loses its power. Kawo closed his notebook and stood up. Others followed suit. The entire audience stood, not only applauding, but breathing together, as one organism, as one force. When you stand up, an entire ancestry rises with you. If you liked this video, Leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and don't forget to say in the comments what you would have done if you were in Dandara's place.